Lately it seems like all the new gun models coming out suck. And today I want to talk about why I think that is and see if you agree with me or if you disagree. Hey everybody, Yankee here. I think most of you out there know that I'm not just a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, I'm also a gun lover. Love them, addicted even, I would say. I just love them on a base level, as tools, as pieces of art, pieces of complex machinery that I really appreciate. Not just the fact that, what they represent, freedom, self-reliance, and how important they are to our actual free society. I like them for what they are, as an individual item. So lately I've been a little sad to see that most guns coming out, most new models, suck. They're awful. There's no innovation at all. Seems like every gun that comes out, a manufacturer's like, we're about to revolutionize the gun industry. Here's our new version of the AR-15. Look, the handrail's different. Or the grip is slightly differently shaped. So it's completely revolutionary. Or, that gun we've sold 1 million of already? Well, here it is again. But the barrel's a ½ inch shorter. Or, worse yet, barrel's a ½ inch longer when it doesn't make sense. Or, you can get it in purple now. You could never get it in purple before. That's revolutionary. Or even worse, the ones that hey, this, it looks like it's the same gun, but that little 1/4 inch spring right there, we tuned that up. This gun is so much better now. In fact, you'll never notice the difference, but it is. Trust us, you better go get one. That seems to be what the new gun market has become. And a lot of people think it's because, guns have just reached their pinnacle of evolution. They can't get any better. What can you do? You can't do anything innovative. Well, I disagree with that. I think there's lots of things you can do. There's all kinds of new models. There's all kinds of old models that can be revamped for modern society. That would be awesome. But instead, they're doing these little safe tweaks. And I'll tell you why I think it is. I think the gun manufacturing industry has put themselves in a bad situation. Over the last few decades, they've been using fear to sell guns. And they've created an artificially inflated market. Back in the days of the NRA used to take their money and say, we'll get people scared. We'll give them reason to go out and buy guns. We'll put forward legislation in some states that we can point to and go, that's coming to your state. You better go buy guns. All kinds of dirty tricks to keep people afraid. And now it's continuing through other gun groups and through talking heads on the internet. It's accelerated on the internet. They're always telling you why you should be afraid, why you should be angry, and why you should go buy guns. And because of that, you have a market now where a dwindling population, there's fewer and fewer true hardcore gun guys every year as we die off. They're having to sell more and more guns. You know how the market works nowadays. If you're a business, especially if you sell stocks, you have to have exponential growth and those dividends have to keep getting bigger. So they're trying to get fewer people to buy more products. And so far they've been fairly successful with a few downturns, like in the first Trump administration. And they're really afraid it's happening again now. And they've tried their hardest to get people to be afraid and buy more items. They even, tried to create an artificial ammo scare at the beginning of the term, of his second term. That was so obvious that the talking heads were given their marching orders to say there's not going to be ammo in 6 months. There's not going to be ammo in 6 months. And it didn't really work, but they tried it. And I think a lot of their tricks are not working now, so they're panicking. Because like I said, they're sitting on this artificially inflated market where they're having to sell more and more each year to fewer and fewer people who are getting tired of being told why they're afraid. They're getting tired of being told, instead of buying one gun this year and then putting away some money for your old age or your kid's college, buy 6 guns. And then later you can sell them if you need to because the value will just go through the roof. It's stuff like that. Or, hey, what's more important? Paying your second mortgage or being protected when the liberals come to get you or the MAGA guys come to get you. Proud Boys, whatever. Whatever's coming to get you, when they come, you'll be glad you didn't pay your electric bill and that you got that other AR. That's the kind of market they've been running for a while now. and it's unsustainable. And because that market is unsustainable, if they were to put money into research and development, really create new stuff, there's a good chance that they'd lose all of it. There are some companies that have tried to put out innovative guns lately, but because they have to pay the money up front to get it developed, they put them out and they go like, here's this new cool gun, it's $7,000, when it really should be about $1,500. But they're trying to make back all their development costs right up front because they know, hey, this market could crash at any moment. And that ends up making them not sell, not be successful. So that happens quite a bit. And like I said, the big companies, they can't put that money into research and development because if they put all this money into that, into the tooling, into the design, into the marketing, and then the market slumps, especially as much as it should with the decreasing number of people in the market, and if less people become afraid and people have harder financial times now, all those things add up to a big slump. Well, they're screwed. Their investors are going to sell their stock. They're going to dump it. They're going to leave because they didn't get dividends this month or this year. And also, instead of putting money into research and development, they have to give that money in dividends to people. Anytime they have a profit, instead of making the company better with it, they have to shell it out to shareholders. Because if not, the shareholders would be like, this stock's been holding steady for 2 years. It hasn't increased in what I'm getting back from it, so I'm going to sell it. Because that's the way the market is now. It requires exponential growth from a more and more strained market, and eventually that strained market's going to snap. And the gun community, through their years of fear-mongering and their years of overinflating the market by saying, oh, they're coming to take your guns. Which, don't get me wrong, there are some people who would love to take your guns. But whether they're going to be successful or not is, highly unlikely. But even the gun groups, they do help promote that notion by, like I said earlier, they let things pass. They help things pass in certain states that they know are very anti-gun friendly so that they can point at it and go, aha, you the one that said that it wasn't going to happen and you weren't scared. Look, it's happening. We made it happen just to prove our point. And that market, like I said, is unsustainable. So right now, the gun manufacturers are sitting on top of this giant bubble. They're making profits that they know they probably shouldn't be making, and they know they're probably not going to continue to make. But their business model requires them to make more profits. And that's not going to go well in the long run. That's going to pop. And when it does, they don't want to have any more money invested than they have to. They want that money to be in the pockets of the owners, the CEOs, the board of directors, the gun groups, etc. They want it sitting there when the company goes bankrupt. Not in the company. They don't want the company to be in debt. They want the money to be in their pockets, not in the company coffers, because then that's money that goes to the creditors. So like I said, they know that bubble's about to burst, so they're not willing to put money into it. They have to give that money to their investors, or they put it in their own pockets because, like I said, they know that this is a short-lived market. Another 5-10 years, probably most, and then collapses. We've seen it happen in housing markets, every other market. And like I said, right now times are tough. And that shrinking number of people that buy guns can't continue to say, well, I'll put off my electric bill. I'll put off this. I'll put off that to get an extra gun. They just can't do it now. They can't really spend any extra money on anything. And that got them scared. And that's why they're not putting money into research and development. They're not making new guns. It's much easier just to lop a half-inch off or change a little bit on something you already have or tune a piece or change the color. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing now. I don't like it. I hate that it's been put to this situation. I would love to see fewer gun manufacturers with a healthier market. Because a lot of people say, well, but if this market collapses, a lot of the gun manufacturers will go out of business. Well, then that means there was no market for them. But if we had a healthy market, the big guys, the ones that are really putting out the good products that we need, and some few boutique designers and stuff that could be supported by that small market, they'd still exist. But a lot of these, opened up a new AR shop. I sell stuff for ARs. They've go out of business because the market really isn't there for them. So that's where we're at. That's the problem, at least how I see it. Do you agree or do you disagree? Hey everybody, Yankee here. Before we go, I just want to take a second to remind everyone that this channel is 100% viewer funded. We don't take a penny from advertisers, retailers. We don't take money from political organizations. There's no one telling me what I need to tell you. Everything that we do is done through the generosity of our viewers, either buying merchandise or becoming a patron or a Subscribe Star member. You're all the ones that support Pets and Vets and TYMP. And that's the reason I can stay true to myself and loyal only to the people who watch my channel. And I can spend my time talking about what I want to talk about, telling what I think needs to be said, and giving you my uncensored take on things I think you need to hear. So if you'd like to help keep things that way, please support the channel by becoming a patron, a Subscribe Star supporter, or just going over to my web store and buying some merch. The links are all in the upper corner of this video.